The UNSS Prometheus shuddered violently as space itself seemed to tear apart around it. Warning lights flashed red across every console in the command center. Captain Elena Morris held tight to her chair, her knuckles white from the pressure. "All hands, brace for impact," she shouted into the ship-wide communication system. The crew of 200 people grabbed onto whatever they could find. Scientists clutched their workstations. Engineers wrapped their arms around support beams. Children in the civilian quarters screamed as their parents pulled them close. Thomas Blake, the chief engineer, stared at his screens in disbelief. "Captain, the readings make no sense. It's like reality is breaking down." Then came the impact. The ship hit ground with the force of a falling meteor. Metal screamed. Systems exploded. People were thrown across rooms. The crash seemed to last forever, but in reality it was only 30 seconds of pure terror. When everything finally stopped moving, Elena slowly opened her eyes. She was still alive. She could hear groaning and crying throughout the ship. Her head throbbed with pain, but she forced herself to stand. "Damage report. Everyone sound off by sections," she ordered. Slowly reports came in. 20 people were seriously injured. 3 were dead. The ship's hull was cracked in multiple places. Most systems were offline. But they had survived. "Where are we?" asked Lieutenant James Cooper, the security chief. "Unknown," Elena replied. "Thomas, can you get external cameras working?" Thomas worked quickly on the damaged systems. After several minutes, one screen flickered to life. What they saw made everyone go silent. Outside was a world that should not exist. Green forests stretched to the horizon. In the distance, stone castles rose from the landscape, their towers reaching toward the sky. And flying above it all were creatures with massive wings and long tails. "Are those dragons?" whispered Dr. Emily Hart, the chief scientist. Before anyone could answer, movement caught their attention. People were approaching the crashed ship. But these were not ordinary people. They had pointed ears and moved with impossible grace. They wore robes that seemed to glow faintly, and they carried staffs topped with crystals. "Elves," someone breathed. "We crashed in a fantasy world." The crew gathered weapons and prepared for first contact. Elena led a team of 10 people out through the damaged airlock. The moment they stepped outside, something felt wrong. The air was thick with something they could not see but could somehow feel. It made their skin tingle. The elf stopped 20 meters away. One stepped forward. He was tall and elegant, with silver hair and eyes that glowed faintly blue. He spoke in a language nobody understood, his voice musical but firm. "We don't understand you," Elena said carefully, raising her hands to show she meant no harm. The elf frowned. He raised one hand and his palm began to glow. Light flowed from his fingers, forming shapes in the air. Elena felt a strange sensation in her head, like someone was touching her thoughts. Then, suddenly she could understand him. "I am Silrith of the Woodland Realm," the elf said. "What manner of star fortress have you brought to our world?" "Star fortress," Elena repeated. "This is a ship. We are travelers from another world. We did not mean to come here. Something pulled us through space." Silrith studied her with intense curiosity. He walked closer and several human soldiers tensed. The elf raised his hand again, this time toward Elena. Blue light surrounded her body. She felt him examining her somehow, looking at her in ways that had nothing to do with normal vision. His eyes widened in shock. "You have no soul thread. No connection to the mana. How is this possible?" "Mana? What is mana?" Elena asked. "The energy that flows through all living things. The power of magic itself." Silrith looked disturbed. "But you are empty. Like walking corpses." More elves gathered around, all examining the humans with their glowing magic. Word spread quickly through the elven scouts. The humans were soulless. They could not feel or use magic. They were unnatural. Thomas joined Elena outside, carrying scanning equipment. "Captain, our technology is failing. The laws of physics here are different. Our equipment is dying." This was getting worse by the minute. They were stranded in a world where magic was real and science did not work properly. They could not use magic and soon they would have no technology either. Then more figures appeared on the horizon. These were human but not from Earth. They wore armor and carried swords. They rode on horses and moved in military formation. Behind them came shorter, stockier people with thick beards. Dwarves, Elena realized. Silrith turned to his scouts. "Send word to the Dominion. We have found something unprecedented. We must decide what to do with these strange visitors." A younger elf spoke urgently. "But Lord Silrith, they crashed in the disputed borderlands. The human kingdoms will claim them too. I know, Silrith replied grimly. Elena understood immediately. They had crashed in a war zone. Different kingdoms would fight over them, over their knowledge, over their dying technology. Her crew was now a prize to be won. Colonel Marcus Stone appeared at her side. He was a hard man with combat experience. He looked at the gathering forces and spoke quietly. Captain, we have weapons. We could take control of this situation. No, Elena said firmly. We are not conquerors. Then what are we? Stone challenged. Sitting ducks. Elena looked at her damaged ship, at her frightened crew, at this impossible world of magic and monsters. They had no way home. Their technology was failing. They were surrounded by forces they did not understand. We are survivors, she said. And we will find a way. 6 months had passed since the crash. The settlement of New Terra grew around the broken hull of the Prometheus like a strange metal flower in a medieval garden. Human prefabricated buildings stood beside wooden structures built with elven help. The sound of hammers mixed with the chanting of mages as two worlds learned to work together. Thomas Blake wiped sweat from his forehead as he examined his latest creation. The fusion reactor that once powered the ship now glowed with blue mana crystals instead of uranium rods. It should not work. Every law of physics said it was impossible. But here in this world, it hummed with steady power. You humans are strange, said Silrith, watching over his shoulder. The elf mage had become a frequent visitor to the engineering bay. You cannot feel the mana, yet you bend it to your will through metal and numbers. We call it pattern recognition, Thomas explained. Magic might be new to us, but patterns are patterns. Energy is energy. We just had to learn the new rules. Silrith touched the reactor housing gently. His fingers traced the mathematical equations Thomas had carved into the metal. You treat magic like water flowing through pipes. So crude. Yet it works. Crude but effective, Thomas grinned. Want to see what else we have made? He led Silrith to another workshop where Emily Hart was working. She had created something extraordinary. A rifle, but not like the chemical-powered weapons from Earth. This one had channels carved along the barrel, filled with conductive crystal dust. We call it a spell rifle, Emily explained. A mage holds it here and channels their power through these pathways. The weapon focuses and directs the magic like a laser. One mage can now have the accuracy and range of 10. Silrith picked up the weapon carefully. He channeled a small amount of mana into it. A bolt of pure energy shot across the testing range and struck the target dead center. His eyes widened with surprise. By the ancient trees, he whispered. This is revolutionary. Outside the workshop, life in New Terra continued its strange blend of old and new. Human doctors taught local healers about germs and sterilization. The death rate from simple infections dropped dramatically. In return, the healers taught humans about herbs that actually worked through magical properties, not chemistry. The dwarven smiths were Thomas's favorite neighbors. They understood metalwork in ways humans had forgotten. Their leader, a gruff warrior named Borin, spent hours comparing techniques with the human engineers. Your steel is strong but brittle, Borin explained one day. You make it too pure. Add mana-touched iron from the deep mines. Makes it flexible. And your forging takes too long, Thomas countered. Use our electric furnaces. We can heat metal to precise temperatures. Together, they created new alloys that were stronger than either could make alone. Weapons, tools, and building materials flowed from their combined forges. Captain Elena Morris walked through the settlement with Sir Aldrich beside her. The native human knight had become her liaison to the local kingdoms. He was teaching her about the politics of this world, and she was teaching him about Earth's history. Your world had no magic at all? Aldrich asked, amazed. Yet you built ships that sail between stars? We had to, Elena explained. Without magic we learned to use everything else. Fire, metal, electricity, mathematics. We turned the physical world into our tool. And now you are here learning our ways, Aldrich smiled. Perhaps the universe brought you to us for a reason. Elena felt her face grow warm. Over the months she had grown close to this knight. He was intelligent, brave, and curious about everything human. Their conversations had become the highlight of her days. But not everyone was happy with the changes. In the southern regions, dark clouds gathered. The Demon Imperium watched the humans with growing concern. Scouts reported that these newcomers were changing everything they touched. The old ways were being abandoned. The balance was shifting. Colonel Marcus Stone stood in the command center, studying maps of the region. He had been patient for 6 months, but his patience was wearing thin. He gathered a group of like-minded soldiers around him. We are being too careful, Stone said quietly. We have knowledge these people cannot match. We have weapons they cannot understand. Why are we asking permission to use what is rightfully ours? The captain ordered us to cooperate, not dominate, Lieutenant Sarah Davies reminded him. The captain is too soft, Stone replied. Look at us. We are teaching them our secrets while they give us basic metalwork and plant knowledge. We should be leading, not partnering. His words found support among some of the crew. Tensions began to simmer beneath the surface of cooperation. Then one morning everything changed. A young elf scout burst into the settlement, bleeding and terrified. Behind him, smoke rose from the southern horizon. Demons, he gasped. They attacked the border villages. Hundreds of them. They say they come to destroy the unnatural ones. They come for you. Alarm bells rang throughout New Terra. Humans grabbed their weapons. Elves prepared their spells. Dwarves donned their armor. For the first time they would fight together. Elena stood on the wall watching the demon army approach. They were massive creatures with red skin and curved horns, riding on twisted beasts. Dark magic crackled around them like black lightning. This is it, Aldrich said beside her. We prove if this alliance means anything. Elena loaded her rifle and looked at the mixed forces around her. Humans, elves, dwarves, and native humans stood shoulder to shoulder. 6 months ago they were strangers. Now they were something new. For New Terra, she called out. For all of us. The battle began. 2 years had transformed New Terra from a crash site into a thriving city. The battle at the border villages had been won, but it cost 30 lives. Since then, an uneasy peace held while both sides rebuilt and prepared. The humans had proven themselves as warriors and innovators. Now they were proving themselves as healers and teachers. The greatest triumph came when Princess Ariana of the Elven Dominion fell sick with a plague that no magic could cure. The royal healers tried everything. Their most powerful spells failed. The princess grew weaker each day and the kingdom mourned. Emily Hart studied samples of the princess's blood under a microscope she had rebuilt using mana-powered lights. What she saw made her gasp. It's a bacterial infection. The magical healing is actually feeding it because the bacteria absorbs mana. She worked for 3 days without sleep, creating antibiotics from local plants and fungi. The elven healers watched in confusion as she injected the princess with what looked like simple plant water. Within hours the fever broke. Within 3 days Princess Ariana was sitting up and eating. The Elven King himself came to New Terra to thank the humans. He brought gifts of land, resources, and most importantly, full recognition as a sovereign people. The alliance was sealed not with weapons but with medicine. The Academy of Integrated Sciences opened its doors shortly after. It was Emily's dream made real. Human teachers stood beside elven mages and dwarven craftsmen. Students of all races filled the halls, learning subjects that blended magic and science. In one classroom, a young dwarf learned chemistry while an elf beside him studied physics. In another room, humans struggled to understand magical theory while native students explained how mana flows through living things. The breakthrough came on a cold morning when Emily stood before a class holding a strange device. It looked like a glove covered in wires and crystals. She had been working on it for months. We humans cannot generate mana, she explained to the fascinated students. Our bodies do not produce it naturally. But that does not mean we cannot use it. She put on the glove and pointed her hand at a candle. The crystals in the glove began to glow as they absorbed ambient mana from the air. Emily focused, channeling the energy through the pathways she had designed. A small flame sparked at her fingertip and lit the candle. The room exploded with excitement. A human had cast magic. Not through natural ability but through technology and understanding. The implications were staggering. But while progress bloomed in New Terra, darkness grew in the shadows. An assassin struck at Elena one night as she walked back to her quarters. Only Aldrich's quick reflexes saved her life. He cut down the attacker but not before the assassin spoke his final words. The unnatural must be removed. You poison this world with your presence. The investigation revealed conspirators on both sides. Some native nobles feared losing power to human innovations. Some humans, led by Colonel Stone, wanted to seize control rather than share it. The alliance was more fragile than anyone wanted to admit. Then the message arrived from the south. A massive demon stood at the border under a flag of truce. He was 10 feet tall with horns like a ram and eyes that burned like coals. His voice boomed across the empty ground. People of the north, we give you 1 year. Remove the star fallen from this world or we will do it for you. They are corruption. They twist the natural order. They must leave or die. The demon army behind him numbered in the thousands. This was not a raid. This was a promise of war. Far to the east, in their mountain fortresses, the Dragon Council debated. The ancient creatures had watched the humans for 2 years. Some dragons saw potential. Others saw danger. They could not decide if humans were a blessing or a curse to their world. They learned too quickly, rumbled an old red dragon. In 2 years they have changed more than we changed in 2 centuries. Perhaps change is what this world needs, countered a younger silver dragon. The demons grow stronger while we sleep and debate. The council remained divided. They would watch and wait, but their patience was not infinite. Colonel Marcus Stone watched all of this and made his decision. He could no longer follow Elena's path of slow cooperation. He gathered his most loyal followers in secret. 40 soldiers, all who believed humanity should rule rather than ask permission. On a dark night they moved. They seized Fort Harris, a human-built stronghold on the eastern border. They took weapons, supplies, and vehicles. Stone sent one message before cutting communication. Captain Morris, you have forgotten what it means to be human. We do not bow to those weaker than us. We do not ask permission to survive. I am taking what we need. Join me or stay with your fantasy friends. But humanity will rule here, one way or another. Elena stared at the message in horror. Civil war among humans. External war with demons. Dragons watching from above, ready to destroy them all if they prove too dangerous. Aldrich put his hand on her shoulder. What will you do? Elena looked at the settlement around her. Humans, elves, and dwarves worked together in the streets. Children of different races played together. This was what she had built. This was worth saving. We stop Stone, she said quietly. Before he destroys everything we have created. Before he proves the demons right about us. The world held its breath as humanity turned against itself. The demon army came like a black storm across the southern plains. 100,000 strong, they marched with drums that shook the earth. Twisted creatures pulled siege engines. Dark mages chanted spells that made the sky turn red. At their head rode the demon lord himself, massive and terrible on a beast made of shadow and fire. They hit Fort Harris first. Colonel Stone stood on the walls with his 40 soldiers and watched death approach. For 3 days they held. Human weapons cut through demon ranks like a scythe through wheat. Rail guns fired until the barrels glowed red. Explosives turned charging formations into scattered bodies. The fortress walls ran black with demon blood. But ammunition runs out. Technology breaks down. Magic does not. On the 4th day, Stone's weapons fell silent. The demons pressed forward. Stone watched villages burn in the distance. He saw refugees fleeing north, families torn apart by demon raiders. He saw what his pride had caused. His hands shook as he activated the emergency channel. Captain Morris. This is Stone. I was wrong. There was a long silence. Then Elena's voice came through, cold and measured. You split our forces during a war, Marcus. People died because of you. I know, Stone replied. His voice cracked. I thought strength meant domination. I thought humanity meant ruling. I was a fool. The demons are slaughtering innocents. I can see the smoke from here. Please, help them. Not me. Them. Aldrich stood beside Elena in the command center. It is a trap, he warned. Stone cannot be trusted. Elena looked at the tactical maps. Stone's fort controlled a critical mountain pass. If it fell, demons could pour into the northern valleys. Thousands would die. She closed her eyes and made her choice. All forces prepare for deployment. We save everyone. Even the idiots. The call went out across the land. The United Alliance assembled faster than anyone thought possible. Elven mages teleported to rallying points. Dwarven regiments marched from their mountain holds. Native human knights rode with their cavalry. And at the center, coordinating everything, were the humans from Earth with their radios and tactics and organizational genius. Thomas had been busy during the months of preparation. He unveiled his new creations at the War Council. Spell rifles that could channel magic with devastating precision. Armor enchanted on assembly lines, mass-produced for the first time in this world's history. Flying ships that combined elven levitation crystals with human engineering. We have one advantage, Emily explained to the gathered commanders. Demons are creatures of pure magic. Our technology disrupts their power. Our presence weakens their spells. Then we get close, said Borin the dwarf, hefting his new Magitech hammer. We break their lines and let our mages do their work. The Battle of Crimson Fields would be remembered for 1,000 years. 50,000 Alliance troops faced 100,000 demons on a plain that stretched to the horizon. The odds were impossible. The stakes were absolute. Elena stood in the command vehicle watching multiple screens at once. Radio chatter filled her ears. She coordinated 12 different groups speaking 6 different languages. Aldrich commanded the cavalry. Silrith led the mage corps. Borin held the center with dwarven infantry. The demons charged first, a black wave of hatred and dark magic. They expected the alliance to break like all armies before them. Instead, they hit a wall of coordinated defense that had never existed in this world. Dwarven shields locked together in perfect formation. Behind them, human soldiers fired in disciplined volleys. Elven mages launched spells through calculated firing lanes. When demons broke through one section, reserves moved instantly to plug the gap. When they tried to flank, flying ships strafed them from above. The demons had never faced an army that thought like a machine. They had never fought enemies who communicated instantly across the entire battlefield. They had never encountered tactics developed over thousands of years of human warfare. But they were still winning through sheer numbers. For every demon that fell, 2 more took its place. The alliance lines began to buckle. Exhaustion set in. Magic reserves ran low. Stone watched from his fort. The demon siege had paused as their main army engaged the alliance. He looked at his remaining soldiers. 20 were still combat ready. They had enough explosives for one last mission. "Listen up," Stone said quietly. "The demon portal gate is 2 miles behind their lines. If we destroy it, no more reinforcements can arrive. They will be trapped here." "That is a suicide mission," Lieutenant Davies said. "I know," Stone replied. "I'm not ordering anyone. I am asking for volunteers." All 20 raised their hands. They struck at midnight, moving through demon camps like ghosts. Stone led them personally, using every trick of stealth and deception he had learned in his military career. They reached the portal gate as alarms began to sound. The fight was brief and brutal. Stone placed the charges himself while his team held off demon guards. He activated the timer and pushed the detonator into Davies's hands. "Get them out," he ordered. "Tell Elena, tell her I remembered." "Sir, we can all make it," Davies protested. "No, we cannot. Go. That is an order." Davies ran, tears streaming down her face. Behind her, the explosion lit up the night sky. The portal collapsed. The demon reinforcements were cut off. On the battlefield, everyone felt it. The demon attack faltered. Their magic weakened. And from the mountains came a sound like thunder. Dragons. Dozens of them. The ancient council had finally decided. They had watched humans fight beside all races. They had seen cooperation triumph over power. They could no longer stand aside. The demons broke and ran. The alliance pursued. And for the first time in centuries, the south began to fall. Retrike. The alliance pushed deep into demon territory, winning battle after battle. But something strange began to happen. Captured demons, when held away from their homeland for several days, started to change. The red fury faded from their eyes. They spoke with confusion, as if waking from a long nightmare. "Where am I?" one demon warrior asked Emily as she examined him. "I remember fire and rage, but it feels like a dream. A terrible dream." Emily's equipment detected something alarming. An energy signature coming from deep in the demon lands. It pulsed with the same frequency as the anomaly that had brought the Prometheus to this world. She ran to find Elena immediately. "Captain, I think I know what is happening. The demons are not naturally evil. Something is corrupting them. And I think that something is our way home." The discovery changed everything. The War Council gathered in a captured demon fortress. Maps covered the tables. At the center was their target, the Void Nexus, a massive tear in reality itself located in the demon capital. "It has been feeding on this world for thousands of years," Emily explained. "It leaks corruption into everything nearby. The demons live closest to it, so they suffer the most. It drives them mad with rage and hatred." Silrith looked disturbed. "We always thought demons were born evil. You are saying they are victims?" "Yes," Emily confirmed. "And if we close the Nexus, we might be able to cure them all." Thomas studied the energy readings. "We could also use it to go home. If we reverse the polarity and create a stable portal, we could return to Earth." The implications hung heavy in the air. They could save the demons or save themselves. Not both. Closing the Nexus permanently meant destroying their only way home. Using it to escape meant leaving the demons to their corruption forever. Elena called for a vote. Every human from Earth would decide democratically. They gathered in the main hall, all 120 survivors of the original 200. 40 had died in battles and accidents. 40 were with Stone at the fort and died in the explosion. The debate lasted 3 days. Some argued they had done enough. They had changed this world. They deserved to go home. Others said they could not abandon people who needed them. The demons were victims. Leaving them corrupted would be murder. In the end, 120 people voted. 80 chose to stay. 40 chose to return home. "We will open the portal once," Elena announced. "Those who wish to leave may do so with honor. You have all sacrificed enough. But I am staying. This is my home now." The final assault on the Void Nexus was the largest military operation this world had ever seen. Every nation sent troops. Dragons flew overhead. Mages from a dozen traditions worked together. Human technology coordinated it all. The demon capital was a twisted nightmare of corrupted architecture. Buildings spiraled impossibly into the sky. Streets shifted and changed. At the center, the Nexus pulsed like a wound in space itself. Looking at it made reality feel thin and fragile. Demon defenders fought with desperate madness, but many hesitated. Some were starting to wake up. Some were fighting the corruption inside themselves. The Alliance pushed forward street by street, trying not to kill those they came to save. Elena, Aldrich, Thomas, Emily, and Silrith formed the strike team that reached the Nexus chamber. The room was massive with the tier floating in the center. Energy crackled around it. Through the opening they could see other dimensions, other worlds, fragments of impossible places. "I can stabilize it for 10 minutes, Emily said, working frantically with her equipment. "Just long enough for people to pass through. Then Thomas and I will reverse the polarity and seal it forever." Thomas set up the charges that would collapse the Nexus. "Once we start, there is no going back. Everyone ready?" The portal opened with a sound like tearing silk. Through it they could see Earth. Stars they recognized. Home. The 40 who chose to leave said their goodbyes. There were tears and embraces. Promises to remember. Then they stepped through and were gone. Elena stood at the edge, looking at Earth one last time. Aldrich took her hand. She squeezed it tight and stepped back. Thomas triggered the charges. The Nexus collapsed with a blast of pure white light. The wave of energy spread across the demon lands. Everywhere it passed, the corruption burned away. Demons fell to their knees, weeping as their minds cleared for the first time in centuries. The rage left them. The hatred faded. They were free. 20 years passed. New Terra grew into a magnificent city where crystal towers held computer networks and libraries taught both magic and science. The Unified Council governed fairly, with representatives from every race, including demons. Ambassador Elena Morris Aldrich watched her daughter practice in the courtyard. The girl was half human, half native, with her father's strength and her mother's curiosity. She could cast spells naturally but understood them through mathematics and logic. She was something new. A bridge between worlds. The old crash site had become a memorial. The Prometheus's hull was now a museum. Children of all races visited to learn about the day the star people fell from the sky. A monument stood at the entrance with words carved in every language. "From the stars we came. In this soil we grew. May all peoples find home in each other." Thomas served as chief engineer for the entire continent, building roads and cities that blended magic and technology. Emily's university graduated thousands of students in integrated sciences. Former demon territories flourished under rehabilitation programs. The demons, free from corruption, proved to be skilled artists and philosophers. Silrith, now Archmage Supreme, stood beside Elena at a ceremony honoring those who died in the wars. "Your Colonel Stone learned the truth in the end," he said softly. "That strength without wisdom is nothing. That power without compassion is empty." "Humanity's gift was never our technology," Elena replied, watching ships launch from the spaceport. "They were built by many hands, powered by combined knowledge, crewed by multiple races. It was showing this world that different peoples can achieve more together than any could alone." Above them, a ship rose into the sky, heading for the stars. On board were humans, elves, dwarves, and demons working side by side. The universe was vast and full of wonders. And this world, once torn by war and corruption, was ready to explore it together.